Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Maria DeStore, and I'm the Executive Director of the Scleroderma Foundation's Rocky Mountain Chapter. And I have with me tonight Cyndy Besselievre. So it is 2001. We've all made it, and it is a big year for the Rocky Mountain Chapter. We are celebrating 20 years of service to the scleroderma community, and this lady here has been around for all 20 of them. And we couldn't let this anniversary pass without, marking it. So we launched the Imagine campaign, and the Imagine campaign endeavors to raise $100,000 this year to fund our expansion into the larger Rocky Mountain community. So much work that needs to be done out there, but first I want to talk to Cyndy a little bit about the 20 years that we've already done. Where did we start? How did you get started with the Rocky Mountain Chapter?
Well, my mother was diagnosed with scleroderma in the mid-'80s. And first, let me say, we had hoped to have my sisters on here with us. They are both back in Pennsylvania, where I'm from. So Sherry and Tammy, unfortunately, we had them on, but then with the technical difficulties, couldn't get them on virtually with us. So thanks to them. And wish they could be here with me. It's been a long time since I've seen them, so miss them a lot. So I kind of got started with the foundation. My mother was diagnosed with scleroderma finally in the mid-1980s after having several years of symptoms. Everyone with scleroderma knows what that is like, I think. She was finally diagnosed by Dr. Sergio Jimenez, who is still practicing. I don't think he still sees patients, but he is still one of our top researchers, and he diagnosed her, when I said mid-'80s, so almost 40 years ago, and he's still around. My mother started out with symptoms that were kind of a little different from what I've heard from most people now that I know more about scleroderma. She was initially losing a lot of weight. She did have GI issues, which most people have. And before there was any noticeable tightening of her skin, she said it just felt like sometimes like someone was standing on her feet, which to me I think was probably the skin tightening. And she got to the point where she couldn't even stand like a sheet on top of her when she was in bed. So I think that was some skin issues too. So when she was finally diagnosed, I had actually moved to Colorado shortly before her symptoms started. And I remember my dad calling me and just telling me, well, it's not cancer, but it's this thing called scleroderma. And I said, well, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And he said, we don't know yet, because at that point, none of us knew anything about scleroderma. So mid-1980s, what did I do? How did I find anything out? I couldn't just go to the internet. You kids won't know this, but I actually had to call information and ask for anything related to scleroderma. They found the Scleroderma Foundation, headquartered in Danvers, Massachusetts. So I connected with them. They had to mail me information and sent me just a whole bunch of information. So it was very helpful to my family and to me to learn more about the disease so that we could help my mom.
Yeah, and patients really struggle with getting diagnosed, and we're lucky here in the Rocky Mountain region. We actually have 2 scleroderma research treatment centers. So there are some options. Actually, we have 3 because there's one in Salt Lake City as well.
Mm-hmm. And also, if any parents are out there with children with scleroderma, Children's Hospital here in Colorado also has doctors who are familiar with the disease too.
Great. Yeah, so your mom is diagnosed. It's really scary. There's not a lot of information out there. So what happened next? I know your mom is a fighter, and she just took this head on. And not only did she try to figure it out for her, she went a step further and grabbed her whole family along and said, we're going to raise awareness and funds for scleroderma.
Yeah, we all kind of got involved. My family directly, because they were all back east in Pennsylvania with her. They actually started a walk in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. At that time, there wasn't anything there. They started a walk called Stroll and Roll. They started a local support group, which ultimately everybody became really good friends and even did things like socially outside of scleroderma. But the Stroll and Roll event was a lot of fun. Like I said, my parents helped start it. I went back flew back every year to help out with it while they had it. I think the first year was, I was trying to find my oldest t-shirt. The oldest t-shirt I had is 1995, but I know it started a few years before then. And my mother's best friend was actually very involved too. Her name was Rainey Miller, and she worked for an auto auction back in Pennsylvania where dealers would come in to purchase cars. So she worked at the front desk. The auction was held like once a week. She would, and she had worked there for years. She knew all the dealers and everybody else coming in, the car owners and everything. So she would not let people in when she was raising funds for the stroll and roll. And she, they just, because they knew her and she was great, they just generously donated to her. And she raised thousands of dollars every year at stroll and roll.
Great, yeah, and I've seen some photos of Cyndy and her mom at conferences, at national conferences, education events. That's a big piece of what the Scleroderma Foundation does. They have a national conference, and all of the different chapters across the United States have our own education events. As part of the Imagine campaign, we endeavor to expand our education events into areas that are underserved. Into 2021, we're going to be adding a meeting, an education event in Salt Lake City. Fingers crossed that we can be in person by October, right? And we're also going to be having a mini conference in Grand Junction as well. Trying to just expand our services and really meet that unmet need out there. So Cyndy, you were in Colorado, your mom's raising money in Pennsylvania, and you saw that there was a need for support in Denver. There was no presence of the Scleroderma Foundation in the Rocky Mountain area at all.
Right.
So what happened?
Well, I really wanted to do something because especially after my father passed away, he was a great caregiver for my mom, really took care of her, got her to her doctor's appointments, learned about the disease. Once he passed away, my sisters became the caregivers for my mom because they were local. They took her to all her appointments, grocery store, whatever she needed. So I really felt like I wanted to help too. And since I wasn't there, I thought, well, maybe we could do something in Colorado. And about the same time, National had been getting other calls from people in Colorado. So they sent someone out here, sent a letter in the mail saying, we're going to have a meeting, see if there's interest to start a chapter. So there were probably maybe 10 or 15 families there when the person from National came out. And we had a little chat, probably for about an hour, and she got to the point where she asked if we were ready to move forward, and everybody raised their hand and said, yes, we are. So we started, Dave Fisher was our first president, and he was actually a school principal. So we started meeting, held meetings at his house, then at his support group meetings at his school to get us all started. And in 20 years, we went from one support group. Denver actually had some people that were meeting off on their own, but we started out with support groups, and over the years we developed 4 different support groups around the state. We started a walk. Let's see, this year's would be the 16th or 17th.
17th, so if we're able to have walks.
Yeah, so whatever that was, 2004, 2005, we started the Stepping Out to Cure Scleroderma walk. We held it for a number of years at Cherry Creek State Park for the Denver area, and then we also expanded that into Fort Collins for our Fort Collins group up there. We started patient education days with the help of Dr. Fisher, who was head of our medical advisory board at the time from UC Health. And all the local doctors that are involved with our chapter on our medical advisory board helped us put that together. Great learning experience for patients. And not only that, but it's a great opportunity for patients and caregivers and their families of scleroderma to all come together and meet and talk and just get to know one another. Because as you know, this disease affects everybody so differently. And you don't have to be alone. We are here, and lots of people understand what you're going through. As I mentioned, our medical advisory board, they are a great resource to us. We have doctors on that from UC Health, National Jewish Children's Hospital, and they just help us with their referrals for patients. They participate in our patient education days, just help us with whatever we need.
Yeah, and as you can see, the woman with boundless energy here has kept the chapter growing and thriving for the last 20 years. And it's been amazing. I've been involved with the chapter for 2 years now, and then COVID hit. And we had to rewrite our books, and we had to learn everything new, and we had to learn all this technology. And suddenly, all of our support groups were virtual, and we started having people join from far away. Not only other states, neighboring states, we've had people join from Mexico. So it just really became apparent to us that there's such a need in the greater Rocky Mountain region, including the rural areas of our state. We have members joining us in multiple support groups a month from the southwestern corner of the state. And then we came up with this brilliant idea to launch the Imagine campaign to raise $100,000 to fund expansion. You know, it's just been so powerful connecting with people and just being able to reach people and let them know that we're not alone. And there's no reason why we can't have education events in other parts of the state and start setting up support communities, frankly, because that's what people need. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, and I might add those 20 years, it wasn't just me. It was great board, great volunteers, great support group leaders, lots of people helping. It was a great team effort to get us where we are today.
Absolutely, and we still need teammates. So if you want to come work with us two crazy ladies, you know, please put a message in the chat or drop us an email. There's so many ways you can help virtually from home, on the phone. You know, just every little thing that you could do makes a big difference in the lives of the patients living with scleroderma. So we came on tonight because we have a big announcement. Besides the fact that we decided to expand and try to reach more people, Cyndy, who has given her blood, sweat, and tears, has pulled her family and friends, has volunteered. The woman donates money constantly, and she donates her time, you know, 40 hours a week on top of her job to us. And she is on the national board of the Scleroderma Foundation, in addition to helping locally here at the chapter. She gave me the most, or us, she gave our community the most amazing gift. She donated $20,000 to help us with our expansion efforts going forward. I mean, this donation is just going to have ripple effects in the scleroderma community in the Rocky Mountain region. So thank you, Cyndy.
You're welcome. You're welcome. My pleasure.
Yeah, and she doesn't just stop there, right? I mean, she's always volunteering. She's always helping out. And so we're here tonight to say who's going to stand up with Cyndy and us, and who's going to help us reach our goal. Our goal is to reach 1/3 of our goal by Valentine's Day. So spread the love, show your support for the scleroderma community. The link for the Imagine campaign should be in the chat of this live stream. It's on the Imagine campaign 2021. Please stand up and join us in our mission to help serve the larger Rocky Mountain community. Thank you.
Thank you. Please support us.